Hey guys, what's going on? Chris Rangio here for Cigars.com. We're bringing a new series to the channel, more informational. I have Bobby Galfo with me here. Bobby, what is your title for Cigars.com?
Hey guys, so I'm the e-commerce merchandiser for Cigars.com. I mainly work on all of our product portfolio as well as providing deals for the website.
Awesome. How long have you been in the world of cigars?
So I started back in October of 2017 at MC Management, so I am coming up on my 8-year anniversary.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Years. Were you a cigar smoker before then?
So previously, I dabbled in the world of the flavors, the acids, things like that. And then as I got on board here and started to learn more about the industry and everything, I started to dive a little bit into boutiques, some of the higher end things. Getting acclimated in this industry was very nice to be able to smoke all different types of cigars and slowly find out which ones that are valued to my taste.
That you like, yeah, for your palate, yeah.
Yeah.
So as I just mentioned, we're doing more informational videos here for Cigars.com, and we're going to start with the basics today. We're going to talk about what is a cigar. So Bobby and I are going to be doing this series. We'll be bringing to you, like I said, just informational stuff. We have content written on our blog already, so we're just trying to add more to it. So Bobby, in a few words, can you tell me what is a cigar?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the main three components of the cigar are basically, as most know, the wrapper, binder, and filler. There are also different parts of the cigar names. So there's also the foot, the cap of the cigar, and then obviously the cigar bands.
Yes. Yeah. So the foot, you see, I think most common people know the foot because a lot of people have like foot bands, right?
Yep.
So they'll be able to know. Like I've had people ask, should we leave that on when you smoke? No, because it will probably just go up in flames.
Oh yeah.
Go up in flames.
I've seen people light the foot band. I've seen people light the cedar. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The cedar. Yeah. I've actually lit a cigar with cedar before. I saw Nick.
Oh
Nick
yeah.
do that before.
When you take it off. Yeah.
And it has a nice. It just gives it does give a little bit of a nice like
an extra
taste.
smoky aroma.
Yeah, an extra smoke taste to it.
For sure.
And then the cap. When I first started here like 5 years ago, I didn't know what it was. And the cap, you've seen, I don't know if you could see like here, right? You never want to cut below that. I've finally been able to master cutting a cigar without using a perfect cut.
Yeah.
And you really just, the less you take off, the better, for my opinion, depending on I guess what would you say? The status of the cigar. If the cigar is really like not humidified properly, more might come off, it might crack and all that.
Yep.
So, but you try to just nip a little bit off. And are you smoking the late hour as well?
Yep. You
Yeah,
both
we're
got the late
smoking
hour going.
Two different sizes of the late hour by Davidoff. Are you a fan of, like, that's a stupid question, are you a big fan of Davidoff?
Yeah. Davidoff's usually in my rotation for sure. Obviously, white label, all their, Yamasas, Davidoff Nicaraguas, big fan of those too. And then, some of their sub brands, Avo's got some great stuff out there, Camacho as well.
Yeah. Speaking of Camacho, you and the team recently this year went to Camp Camacho.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that before we dive into our episode?
Yeah. So, the Camacho factory was great. We got to experience a little bit of the fields. We got to go into the factory, meet the rollers, meet all the heads of the factory, basically. We learned some great information between their aging room, what gets rolled there, how many cigars get rolled a day there. Seeing the actual components in front of you and watching them, put the filler, bunch all the filler up, wrap everything. They triple cap some of their stuff. So, it was just incredible to see.
Do they usually triple cap cigars just so it doesn't? I'm assuming so it doesn't like get damaged easily, because that's where you are putting a blade to it, or is it for flavor?
I think when I initially started, I was told that some companies, not all companies, but some companies do the triple cap just in case people do make those errors with cutting too far down, because if you do that, it unravels, like you were saying before, which really makes it tricky. But I think they just do it just mainly for that,
Awesome.
Just for user error.
And did you get to blend or make your own cigars?
Yeah, so that was actually one of the greatest things. We did a blending seminar down there, and we got to pick different components, different percentages, and then sent that back to the factory, and then they they had the boxes ready for us and everything.
Before you left, or
yeah,
Nice.
before we left, so we got to take those home and just let them age a little bit before I smoke them. But yeah,
What was the process of that? Like, how difficult was it, or like?
So it was really cool. So we did different types of fillers, different types of wrappers, and then after that we would put the percentage. So I believe there was some tobaccos from Nicaragua, so obviously a lot of Corojo tobacco for Camacho. That's a big tobacco for them, and we picked the percentages, and then basically we just got to basically fill that out. And then some people had crazy ones where it was like 10% of this, 5% of this, 20% of this. I think I went with about 3. I think I did a Mexican San Andres wrapper, Corojo 99 binder, and then fillers that were also Corojo, as well as a little bit of Nicaragua for some kick.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see how that blend turns out.
You haven't smoked any of them yet?
No, yeah, and I'm gonna bring some in for you guys to try as well.
Awesome. Are you gonna let it age for a little bit longer?
Yeah,
or?
so we got them back in March, so they're probably ready to go by now.
Nice.
Yeah, they're probably ready to go by now.
Do you have to age them for a long time? Like when they're made that way, or is it like a few weeks after you could smoke, or?
So their recommendation, since they were rolled brand new when we got them in March, was to let them sit for 60 to 90 days.
Okay.
There were some guys that smoked like 1 or 2 out of their box just to see how it smoked fresh, but it's better to let them rest. Is what I was told at Camacho.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So since you had that more experience than I did, and I've never blended a cigar or been to a factory yet. Let's talk about the 3 main components of a cigar. So you have the filler. What could you tell the audience? What how the important? I think all of these are extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the filler? What's the main importance of like filler being, I guess, done correctly in a cigar?
So the one big thing we want for premium cigars, and that I found when I started in the industry, is that all premium cigars should have long filler tobacco.
And what's that?
So long filler tobacco is long filled tobacco, as the name states. They bunch it and roll it, and it's all directly from dried leaves.
Okay. Is there short filler?
There is short filler too.
I'm guessing it's just shorter than what the longer piece is. It's a
little bit of long filler,
Okay.
and then there also is some, I don't want to say second type tobacco, but lesser valued tobacco that gets put in there as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So those are short fillers.
From what I've just, upon doing research and reading upon it, they really do try to utilize a lot of components of the leaf.
Yes.
Nothing ever seems to go to like waste, unless if it I don't know, was burnt or it doesn't feel right to the growers, right, to the manufacturers. But it seems like if they kind of put something aside that they're not using because they already have the amount of like tobaccos and like proportioned into each cigar, they'll use that for another line down the road, right?
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
filler is you basically start with filler tobacco, right? And then you work your way around it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the next would be the binder, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what is binder tobacco? Where does that play in part of, I guess, taste and construction?
So it's a little bit of taste, and it also is to hold basically all of the filler in place, which is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have the binder, then the filler is just going to be going everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
If the binder does burn well, so do all the filler tobaccos.
Okay.
That's basically one of the main things what the binder is for, and it also does add a little bit of taste depending on which components you're using.
Everyone says the wrapper you get the most flavor from, correct? Would you agree, or is that more of a myth? Or
so I would say so. I would say it also depends on the size. So if you're smoking, you say a Lancero or a Churchill, I think you get a little bit more of that wrapper flavor in there, opposed to a Robusto or
Toro?
something. I think Toro you still do, but like some of the 6x60s, 7x70s, I think the filler and the binder kind of overpower that.
Yeah.
But I think the smaller the ring gauge is you get more taste of the wrapper there.
Okay. Yeah. Wrappers.
From my experience.
Yes. It's seemed to be common knowledge, like what you're saying, because We always quote it. Michael Herklotz from Ferriotego says, "You really get the full flavor experience of a cigar when it is in a Churchill." And same with Lancero. I used to not really be a big fan of Lanceros. I felt like they were weird to smoke.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like smoking a cigarette almost.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Big
But
time.
I remember the one Lancero that changed my mind was the Belos Artes from AJ Fernandez.
Yeah.
That line in general is just really good. But that Lancero, it was really good. It was like, all right, maybe I should give these a chance, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Every once in a while, Lancero is good.
Yeah. Now there's a bunch of different wrapper types, correct?
Yes.
What would be the most? I think Connecticut. Would you say Connecticut's probably one of the most used and popular wrappers?
I would say so. I would say it's probably one of the most traditional and used, as well as popularity in the new smoker community. You know, I think a lot of people tend to think that Connecticut's are always lighter, which isn't always the case,
Yes.
as we will get into.
Yes.
But I think that they want to go for that milder smoke, so they're looking for some things that have Connecticut wrapper, and then they kind of lean towards that way.
Mm-hmm. Do you, to your knowledge, if you know it, it's always interesting to me that I think that, you know, Ecuadorian Connecticut wrappers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they take, I guess, Connecticut seed and bring it down to like Ecuador, or vice versa? Do they get Ecuadorian seeds and grow them in Connecticut?
So there is a little bit of both. So speaking again at the Camacho factory, they did have Nicaraguan tobacco there, but that gets shipped to them because there's other factories and fields down there where they grow it, like you said, with the seeds from the different regions,
Yeah.
or they just buy the pilons, which is the bundles of tobacco, from other companies and get them shipped.
Yeah, that always interested me in terms of like how, you know, when you see like a, you know, just like it's more common with Connecticut's where you see like a Ecuadorian Connecticut, right? So you're like, how was that? Where was that grown? You know. So what are some different? First of all, the wrapper. It would you say it makes or breaks the cigar, or it just like if you have a cracked wrapper, will that, I don't know, devalue the smoking experience? Like, do you think, like, how important is the wrapper to the cigar, would you say?
So I would say having a flawless wrapper is definitely very important. You know, you don't want any cracks in the wrappers. You really don't want any veins in the wrappers. If the cigar does crack, you know, sometimes when you take the band off, the cigar will get a little crack in it, or the wrapper may rip, and that does affect the smoking experience when you're going past that, depending on how deep the hole is.
Okay.
Excuse me. But, you know, if it's a really deep hole, you might have smoke pouring out of the side of the cigar, and that will completely ruin it. And then there's other things where if the hole isn't as deep and the wrapper is just slightly, you know, kind of ripped off, when you smoke past that part, it'll get a little funky. You know, you won't get the exact flavors that you've been feeling, you know, maybe the first or second third of the cigar. But I'd say it's definitely a very important part of the cigar, and it, you know, it complements the filler and binder.
Yeah. I mean,
Big time.
I always look at it as if you have like a Nicaraguan binder and filler, but maybe, I don't know, a Mexican San Andreas wrapper. To me, when a cigar has those elements, like, that's one of the most flavorful cigars I've ever had, right? And I just wonder if it, you know, obviously you mentioned it earlier too. It's not always the case where, oh, you have a Connecticut wrapped cigar, oh, it's going to be a mild or mellow smoking experience. That's not the case.
Yep.
There's times I've smoked cigars, like the Nightshade, for example. It looks intimidating, but it smokes extremely smooth.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, it really depends on the blending process of that. What are
Agreed.
some other wrappers, if you want to talk about like more common wrappers that are used within the industry?
Yeah, so there is obviously Maduro. That term is used broadly because there is different type of Maduro wrappers, and we'll probably get into that in a future episode. But that basically is the color, so it's typically very dark. And same thing with Connecticut. Most people tend to think that dark wrapper cigars are going to be ass kickers. Am I allowed to say that? Tended to be ass kickers or knock you on your feet, but there has been plenty of Maduro wrapped cigars that aren't too strong.
Yeah. So can you go into really quickly? Sorry, I'm going to keep jumping everywhere.
Yeah.
How do they get the tobacco wrapper to look as bright as a Connecticut or even like Candelas and even darker as like Maduros? Is it the positioning in a barn or what?
So it's a little bit of that. It's a little bit of positioning in the barn, how long it's left in the curing barn for, for lighter type of wrappers and different types of leaves. They don't do the same processes. If you're looking to do a Maduro wrapper, they may leave it in there twice as long, 3 times as long. It all depends on what exactly they're going for the specific blend they're trying to create.
Remember a while ago I had to write an article on like the curing, was it curing? Yeah, like barn curing process and how hot they get. I've been fortunate to go to like a Drew Estate barn smoker.
Oh yeah.
And see like how they get there's people up there like hanging the leaves. They're not wired to the barn.
Oh
like
no, they're just straight
they're
climbing
free
up that
falling.
thing. Yeah, man. Oh man.
Yeah, they're straight crawling.
It gets me anxiety just looking at that.
It does because these I guess racks of leaves, I'm sure they can get pretty heavy at some point.
Oh
so
yeah,
really
they got them on a whole pillar of. They got a whole plank of wood when they're hanging them up there.
And you have to know how to hang them, or like where to position them. And I think that it really is interesting. Every time I do end up talking about cigars, just how much really goes into it. Like it's not. People think it's. I don't know if people think it's easy as 1, 2, 3, right? But there's a whole process. There's a scientific process behind it too.
Of course.
Right? pH levels with your humidifier pack. We can get it all into that in future episodes.
Yeah. Many more to come.
Yeah. So what could you talk a little bit more about I know a popular one is like Corojo and Habano.
Yeah, sure. So, Corojo, it's just a touch darker than, the Connecticut Valley. Most people say it's easily distinguished by slight and peppery zesty scent. It's a tad bit light. Main manufacturers that use Corojo are Jerry Aladino, CLE, and obviously Camacho.
So following Corojo, the other popular one is Habano, right?
Yes.
And can you tell us just like what the little difference in Habano is versus I guess like the Corojo and the Maduro?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a darker tan shade wrapper. It has a little bit of a red tint to it, also why it's called sun-grown in some areas. It delivers a bit more of a spicy, mellowed flavor.
Mm-hmm. This is a stupid question, so you'll probably get a lot of them throughout this series.
Hey, man.
Most of them are sun-grown, no? Like most tobaccos are sun-grown.
Yes,
right.
Most are sun-grown. That's why people get confused when they hear Habano and sun-grown being mixed. Because I know like Perdomo has, they have sun-grown across all of their lines. Maduro, sun-grown, and Connecticut.
I've seen a lot of it in Underground, like the Underground sun-grown. I love. So is it basically just Underground Habano? Is it just another word for Habano, or is it just...
Some people call it Habano and some people call it sun-grown. It all depends.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then yes. Last but not least, for like what is a cigar, usually when you are getting a cigar you get a beautiful band such as like this one we have, right?
Oh yeah,
this one, the Davidoff Late Hour, it's black and gold, and then it has a I guess an image or a outline of Winston Churchill. Do you think, really quickly before we leave, do you think there's band bias? Do you think bands make or break cigars? What's your thoughts on that?
So when I first started in the industry, or even a little before I started in the industry, I would say that when I didn't know anything about cigars, I was going into the shops, and the ones that had the coolest bands, unless I was getting, recommendations from shopkeepers or anything like that, I was shopping for what kind of looked cool. Yeah. And that was, back then I was in my young 20s. So, I was looking for that. I mean, even some of my friends that are new smokers, they'll go to shops and they'll say, oh, this has a cool band, I want to pick it up. So I think there is a little bit of bias on that. As you get, dive into the industry and really start to learn and smoke more and more and more, which companies, like Davidoff's, the My Fathers, Ashton's, they have pristine bands, and they also make really good cigars. Because there are some cigars out there that have cool bands, but they're not the best smokes.
Yeah, they don't smoke as well as the band may look.
Yes, agreed.
And I do enjoy like how, to me, this band is kind of it does the wrapper like justice, right? It looks like
100%.
the dark wrapper on this makes the band pop more.
Agreed.
Or like you said, My Father, they have those like the harken back to like, you know, the good old days
Cuban
of the Cuban,
elegance. Yep.
Cuban-esque type. I feel like Arturo Fuente as well.
Oh, of course.
But then there's something where I guess as I'm getting older, like the simplistic or the not like the flashy, it just like kind of like, you know, like the Hoya de Nicaragua, Antonio, Connecticut. It's a beautiful, I think that's Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper, if I'm not mistaken, with that red, like their red logo essentially on it. I think that looks beautiful to me too.
Yep. And speaking of that cigar, that is one of the Connecticut wrapped cigars that is very, some people say very strong, but strong Connecticut wrapped cigar that if someone were to see a Connecticut and be like, oh, this is going to be light, they're in for a surprise.
Yes, I can. And same with one of my favorites is the Henry Clay Warhawk.
Yes.
I think the Connecticut binder, the Connecticut broadleaf binder, and then I think that's what like kind of gives it a kick too. But yeah, the wrapper, it's not for the faint of heart either. So
no.
But no, yeah. So pretty much. Excuse me. Let me start that over. But Bobby, I appreciate you coming on today to talk about what is a cigar.
Absolutely.
Like I said, we're going to be doing more informational videos for Cigars.com. We have a bunch planned out and lined up. I do appreciate you coming on. This is his first time on camera. I think he did a pretty good damn job. So give him a round of applause. And I appreciate you coming on and just sharing your knowledge of the industry. So
absolutely.
Until next time, guys, keep watching. Please like and subscribe.
Thank you all.